Welcome back to Route Double. Last time, we started out the before route. We got an introduction to our three main characters, I suppose. Natsuhiko, Mashiro Toba, who was really the one of the high school trio that we did not even see until the ending of After, and Yuuri. And so when we last left off, we were going shopping with Mashiro, because she's sort of our... She's sort of our mother-appointed caretaker. Or aka someone... Natsuhiko's mother offered to compensate to help cook meals in our household, since we have 2 mouths to feed and Natsuhiko's a terrible cook. She's also a really good friend. She's also a bit of a weeb. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't have a damn clue what you're talking about. This is so sad. One of Mashiro's bad habits was that she frequently quoted lines of anime and manga. Without the context of the lines, they didn't really leave much of an impression. Both these so-called famous quotes of hers were like that. It's an interesting quote, but yeah, I would not have known in the slightest that this was from a, Join me. Well, it's something. Natsuhiko smiled wryly at Mashiro's disappointment. She really got along with Natsuhiko as if she were an easygoing boy his age. But she also had the disposition of a caring elder sister. It wasn't uncommon at all for her to help him out. She's a good kid. The only troubling thing about her is her otaku hobbies. Her natural boyishness seemed to have guided her in an increasingly peculiar direction as the years went by. I don't understand the connection between natural boyishness and anime obsession, but okay. Unless you're implying that it's the more obsessive anime bitch stereotype dude. I don't even want to go there. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that comparison. Perfectly reasonable for someone like her to get involved into anime. I'm nitpicking. 2 of them head to the nearby bus stop.
10分後くらいだね。よかった。そんなに待たなくて済むな。
Two of them stood there and waited for the bus. Mashiro whispered, gazing at the city.
すぎだよね。最近町の人口自体が増えてるっていうからな。
Natsuhiko looked around at the surrounding cityscape. Well, Rokume City was a small provincial city. However, it was home to more than 300 research facilities and over 10,000 researchers. It was a research university town leading in Japan's cutting-edge science. Facilities covered a broad range of topics, some key examples being nuclear power, biology, physics, medicine, life sciences, environmental science and technology, space research and development, natural disaster prevention, computer science, materials engineering, laser engineering, clean energy, nanotechnology, and finally, BC. Nuclear power and BC research in particular received copious amounts of national funding and were thus heavily pushed. Despite energy deficiencies being a global issue, no country had secured a supply of safe and high-quality energy. Traditional nuclear power generation had been carried out worldwide until the early 21st century, but was no longer acceptable. Innovative results, including the quick implementation of nuclear fusion, were expected. For that reason, both the government and the researchers fervently focused on nuclear power research. BC, on the other hand, garnered focus for a completely different reason. BC research was still an extremely undeveloped field full of uncertainties in its underlying theories. But the unknown cannot be left unknown for long. It was uncertain in which ways research would progress. It was said that the possibilities were endless. So from a scientific perspective, the secrets of BC had to be unraveled post-haste. To that end, both BC researchers and communicators alike were treated favorably in this city in terms of taxation and the like. Likewise, Natsuhiko and Mashiro were beneficiaries of such efforts.
やっぱりコミュニケーターの数も増えてるのかな。らしいよ。まあ僕らにとっては住みやすい街だからな。
It does look like a nice city. Though it was a city of communicators, the city as a whole hardly had any of the untargeted telepathy conversations the school had. Misuse of BC was prohibited by city ordinance, with the premises of Rokume Academy, and a certain few other institutions being the only exceptions. One or two violations would go overlooked, but any intolerable misuse would soon earn you detention and reproval.
まあ賑わうのはいいことだ。少なくとも寂れるよりはさ。そうだね。私もこの街は好きだよ。科学と超能力の街って SF っぽくてかっこいいじゃん。豊かで治安も良くて言うことなしだよね。そうだな。一点を除けばな。
Natsuhiko gazed at the map provided at the bus stop as he spoke. Depicted at the edge of the map was a large hexagonal building.
一点を除けばなあ、ラボのことを除けば。
Right as Natsuhiko began to speak, he spotted something beyond the map and gasped.
どうしたの？
Something wicked this way comes.
あの車、なんか様子が変じゃないか？
Natsuhiko had caught sight of a car weaving back and forth precariously out of its lane. It strayed off the road and started heading towards Natsuhiko and Mashiro at the bus stop.
Mashiro!
Right after Natsuhiko pulled Mashiro by the hand, the sound of an intense impact rang out. The car had crashed into the roadside trees right beside the bus stop. That still was not enough to stop the momentum of the car, which then started to spin out. Only stopping was it collided into a streetlight.
Mashiro, 大丈夫か？私は大丈夫。でも、運転手さんが。
The crashed car was smashed in the front. The doors were horribly crumbled. As a result, the driver was trapped in the car without an easy way out.
助けなきゃ。落ち着け、マシロ。僕ら素人じゃあれは無理だ。救急車を呼ぶべき。何言ってんの？目の前で事故ってんだよ。
Ignoring Natsuhiko, Mashiro ran straight toward the scene of the accident.
おい、待て、マシロ。
He looked at the car as he screamed, and realized that there was a familiar face sitting in the driver's seat.
浮田のおじさん
Hello there, old man. It was Natsuhiko's neighbor and his mother's co-worker, Keiichi Ukita.
おじさん大丈夫ですか
Ukita had no conspicuous injuries. However, he appeared to not be fully conscious, perhaps due to a concussion.
なんだ事故か珍しいなこの町で
Onlookers gathered all at once. Mashiro yelled, ignoring them.
待っててください今出してあげますから
But then, an odd dripping noise could be heard mixed in with Mashiro's voice, and a noxious scent could be smelled, wafting through the air. Gasoline! The impact of the crash had caused gasoline to leak and start evaporating. In this day and age, most passenger vehicles were electric. This particular car, however, was hybrid, a dying breed. If the impact of the crash were to start a fire, there'd be an explosion. Mashiro's gonna get caught in it. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, something snapped in his head.
離れろマシロガソリンだ
Mashiro reflexively jumped back upon hearing that thunderous voice. No, not just Mashiro. All the onlookers shrank away with looks of surprise on their faces. Even Natsuhiko himself was surprised. That mental voice stopped everyone in a visible radius in their tracks. Natsuhiko's telepathy reached the minds of everyone. This wasn't the time to be surprised. That's right, gotta call an ambulance. Natsuhiko took out his PDA with that in mind, brought up the phone function and dialed 119. Line connected immediately.
事故です自動車が街灯に突っ込みました車内に人が取り残されてますしかもガソリン漏れが発生していて爆発の可能性もあります通報ありがとうございます失礼ですがあなたは六名学園高等部生徒天川夏彦です市のデータベースに紹介してくださいいや失礼しました事故が起こった場所はセンター街のショッピングエリアの出口の近くですわかりましたちょうどその場所付近に別件で出動している者がいます避ける人員を直ちに向かわせます
And thus the call center hung up. When Natsuhiko put away his PDA, he found Mashiro had come up beside him.
さっきのって PC ああ多分
Natsuhiko answered ambiguously. Never expected that he could have used BC himself. Stressful situation. I guess he hadn't ever used it before in his entire life. Get the feeling that was a particularly strong use of telepathy.
いやそれより今はおじさんのことだ
Kida appeared to be truly struck. The stench of gasoline got even stronger. The car could have exploded at any moment.
大丈夫かな落ち着け今救急が来る騒がずに待とう
Mashiro nodded. Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and all the onlookers watched over the car in bated breath. Soon enough, the sound of a siren could suddenly be heard. At its source was an ambulance in a long red vehicle, like a fire truck. Two cars stopped by the scene of the accident. Out of the red truck jumped two women. Oh! Hello there! One of the women shouted and looked at Natsuhiko. Based on their orange uniforms, they appeared to be rescue workers.
ええ通報したのは僕です
わかりましたここは危険ですお下がりください
早くガソリンがおじさんが安心しなって私たちが来たからにはね
Hello.
はいほら真城邪魔になるから下がろう
Natsuhiko grabbed Mashiro by the hand and took her further away from the scene of the accident. Go, Moribe and Tachibana! The rescue workers' voices rang out.
モリベ状況は周辺に火器なしガソリンの揮発やや多しでは放水を静電気を抑えて了解
The male squad member's voice added to the noise as well.
木山はエアタッチを。放水終わり次第ドアを開口。救急は担架の用意。急げ。
He bellowed out commands at the scene of the accident. After the hose was done, they wrenched open the car door with something resembling an electric saw and jack. Well, well, the gang's all here. And in the blink of an eye, Ukita was rescued.
はい、もう大丈夫だよ、おじさん。
ありがとう。
The onlookers cheered. Female squad member Chef smiled triumphantly as she laid Ukita down on the stretcher.
かっこいい。
Mashiro cheered as she watched the female squad member at work.
それより行こう。おじさんが心配だ。
Natsuhiko and Mashiro rushed up to the stretcher the rescue squad was carrying.
おじさん。
大丈夫ですか？
ああ、夏彦君に真城君か。
Ukita got off the stretcher once he noticed the two of them.
あ、ちょっとダメだよ、おじさん。このまま救急車に。
いや、すまないが、ちょっとだけこの子たちと話させてくれ。
The squad member hesitated for a second, but then nodded reluctantly.
いいんですか？怪我が。
大丈夫だよ。多少あばらが痛むが、なんとか。
よかった。心配しましたよ。
それよりも、さっきのテレパシーは夏彦君のかい？
ええ、おそらく初めて使ったんですけど。
そうか。
それが何か。
Ukita fell silent for a moment and gazed at Natsuhiko before continuing.
いいか、よく聞いてくれ。大事な話だ。これから君の周りでおかしなことが起こるかもしれない。
え？どういうことですか？
What do you know, Ukita?
気憂ならいい。いや、きっと気憂になるはずだ。だが一応、注意だけはしておいてくれ。
Natsuhiko was bewildered and did not understand. Leaving his cryptic warning at that, Ukita was taken into the ambulance, leaving behind only Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and some of the onlookers.
あれ、どういう意味だったんだろう。夏彦が
Weird.
PC 使ったから条例違反を心配しているのかな。
いや。
He had a feeling that that wasn't quite it, but he didn't have any idea what else it could have been. At that moment, someone caught his sight out of the corner of his eye. When he got a better look, there stood an unfamiliar girl holding a stuffed animal. Hello, Salyu. She was standing amongst the dispersing onlookers from a distance, looking directly at Natsuhiko's way. Was she looking at the accident? No, at me. The girl seemed to be wearing the same Rokumi Academy high school uniform as Natsuhiko and Mashiro, but... Who was that? Have you ever seen a blonde girl like that at the school? Piercing eyes seemed to conflict with her completely disinterested expression. Something about the way she looked at him disturbed Natsuhiko. But he looked the girl back in the eyes. There was something familiar about the look in her eyes. Where have I seen those eyes before? Won't Natsuhiko ponder those eyes, the girl turned away and disappeared into the crowd of onlookers. Bugged him, but before he could get an answer.
どうしたの、夏彦。帰ろう。
With that, Natsuhiko left the scene with Mashiro. At night. Natsuhiko and Mashiro told Yuuri about the incident as they gathered around the dinner table.
そうなの。そんなことが。
いやー、ほんとびっくりしたよね。
Despite how tense Mashiro was right after the accident, she was now back to her cheerful self, excitedly telling the tale.
事故現場に遭遇したと思ったら、夏彦がいきなりテレパシー使うんだもん。いっぺんに2つもビッグイベントが起きてさ、さすがの私もオロオロしちゃったよ。
You and me both.
テレパシー？え、ヒコリンが？
ああ、なんかあの時は使えちゃったんだよ。
その時だけ？もう使えないの？
そうみたい。火事場のバカ力ってやつだったのかな。
Makes sense. After Natsuhiko had seemingly gained the ability of telepathy, he tried to use it again on Mashiro on the way back. But Natsuhiko was unable to send even the feeblest of messages, much less reproduce the large-scale telepathy he used back there.
まあ別にいいさ。伝えたいことがあったら声で伝えればいいんだし。
ありゃ、ほんと BC に興味ないんだね。普段の態度は BC 使えないことに対する負け惜しみじゃなかったんだ。
でもそれでいいと思うよ。おしゃべりの方が楽しいよ。
Yeah.
だな。
あら、BC 使えない者同士気が合うんだね。なんかちょっと疎外感だわ。
Just as Mashiro implied, Yuuri was completely incapable of using BC as well. I don't buy that for a second. She had rank C aptitude, but hadn't practiced much at all. Yuuri didn't seem to like BC all that much either, so Natsuhiko quickly tried to change the subject.
しかしおかしな一日だったな。この街で自動車事故なんてまず起きないのに。
だね。それにしてもどうしておじさん事故なんか。
さあね。ADS がシステムエラーでも起こしたんじゃないか。
Rockaway City was the first city in the nation to adopt trial runs of ADS, that is, automatic driving systems. Cars inside the city were all equipped with that system. You just entered a desired address, and your car safely took you to your destination.
でも ADS の故障なんてめったに起きないでしょ。事故率は人が運転する時のわずか 4% だって話じゃん。
とはいえ 0% じゃないだろ。やっぱり全てコンピューター任せってのも完璧ではないんだろうな。
Despite data suggesting automatic driving be far safer than human operation, there was still something about it that seemed unreliable. When Yuuri heard the discussion, she muttered in a trembling voice.
お外、やっぱり怖いね。
Natsuhiko twitched at her statement. Without revealing so much as a hint of that gut reaction, he smiled at Yuuri and reassured her.
大丈夫だよ。ユーリが気にすることじゃないって。家でのんびりしてれば危険な目に遭うことなんかないから。
そうだよね。
Sure, we'll leave it at this.
そうそう、それでいいよ。誰かみたいに危険なところに飛び込まれたら困るからな。
おやー、それはもしかして私への批判かな。
批判と言ったら言い過ぎだけどさ。
But you
自
know.
分の身も顧みず行動するっていうのはあまり良くないと僕は思うよ。
Mashiro's kindness was a good thing, but her lack of prudence was one of her weak points.
夏彦にはオス度が足りないね。
オス度って、お前は女の子だろ。女の子が危険なところに飛び込むのを見て心配しないわけないだろう。
心配ですと？
そりゃそうだ。つい忘れがちだけど、お前は生物学上は女性なんだぞ。
そういえばそうでしたな。まあ心配かけたのは謝るよ。でもさ、そういう夏彦だって昔はどんどん危険に飛び込んでいったじゃん。
え？まあね。
Natsuhiko found himself at a loss for words in the face of that embarrassing point. Yuuri smiled and started speaking again.
そうだね。ヒコリンもやんちゃだったよね。危険なところがあったらむしろ楽しげに飛び込んでいくようなさ。
確かに僕も昔はそういうところはあったけど。
As Natsuhiko answered, he recalled his childhood days. Seen about a decade old. Back in those days, Natsuhiko was something of a leader among the children. If there was anything interesting, he'd leap right into it without any regard for danger. If he saw a kid getting bullied, he'd go through any lengths to protect them, even if it meant facing a bully bigger than him. Uncharacteristic of a boy his age, he was a kid who would play with girls even if it meant other boys making fun of him.
はーい、ユーリにましろ、遊びに行こうぜ。
Two young girls responded to the young Natsuhiko's voice.
どこ行く？公園行こうよ。この間あそこで可愛いワンちゃんに会ったんだ。
よし、それじゃあ今日はその犬探しだ。二人とも。犬どこだ？犬いたら返事しろ。
ヒコリン、お返事できるわけないよ。よーし、それじゃあ夏彦、どっちが先に見つけられるか勝負しない？
おう、それじゃあ負けた方が勝った方の言うこと聞くのな。
もうすぐにそうやって勝負するんだから。
Brat boss Natsuhiko and tomboy Mashiro had something of a boyish rivalry. As they both always lived in the same neighborhood in Rokame City, they were already acquainted before they could remember. Once Yuuri moved in, the three of them quickly became friends. They had many friends, but they most enjoyed playing with just the three of them. They would go on faraway tests of courage.
怖いよ。大丈夫だよ、ユーリ。私がついてるから。
ましろ、声震えてるぞ。
Practice BC together.
ダメだよ、夏彦。テレパシーなんてできないよ。
諦めるなよ。できるまで頑張ろう。
They didn't just play outside either, they'd also visit each other's houses.
お邪魔します。ああ、夏彦のうち広い。ねえねえ、何して遊ぼうか。
めんこ、それかベーゴマ。
古いよ、
Pogs
夏彦。アニメ見ようよ。ビヨンドビヨンド配信中だしさ。
Pogs were so last decade, Natsuhiko.
みんなで5本読まない？博士ならいっぱい持ってるでしょ。
じゃあベーゴマやりながらアニメ見て本読んで。
そんなにいっぺんにできないって。ヒコリン、欲張りすぎだよ。
Yuuri was 2 years older than the other two, but their age difference was inconsequential. Their hobbies and personalities were all over the place, but the three of them were always together. As long as they were all together, they had fun no matter what they did. And their relationship continued even now. Boys were really dead set on making fun of me back then, huh? Thanks to his perseverance, he was able to build the interpersonal relationships he has now. Familiar relationships one builds from childhood are nigh irreplaceable. That's exactly why one can both scold someone and worry about them at the same time.
まあ今考えるとみんなを振り回してばっかりだったよ。
私は結構楽しかったけどな。
いや、やっぱり平穏が一番だよ。自分から危険に踏み込むことはないって。身の回りが平和であってこそ、こうして美味しい夕食も食べられるんだからさ。
まあそうだね。
Mashiro's mood seemed to improve more or less after being praised for her cooking. And naturally, Yuuri joined in too.
ねえマシロ、このお魚すごく美味しいよ。
だな。これなんて魚？
そりゃあタチウオっていうの。崩れやすい身を丁寧にムニエルにしてみました。
Hairtail. À la meunière.
すごいなマシロ。日に日にお料理の腕が上達していくよ。
In my never-ending quest to pronounce everything awfully.
だな。もはやプロ顔負けだ。
そりゃ褒めすぎ。でも悪い気はしない。もっと褒めて。
Oh. The simple change of topic, the smiles returned to the dinner table. Natsuhiko found such peaceful times to be the most pleasant. What? What is the scene name? Reality is a dream, your dream at night is reality. Eventually dinner came to a close. After a little time spent chatting, it was time for Mashiro to go home.
それじゃあ夏彦にユーリ、また明日ね。
She made her usual farewell.
マシロ、今日もありがとう。
たまには送っていこうか？
いいのいいの。どうせすぐ近くだし。それじゃあおやすみ、お二人さん。
Mashiro returned to their words with a smile as she left the house. Once Mashiro left, there wasn't much for them to do. Basically just relaxed until nighttime came.
さて、シャワーでも浴びるかな。
はーい、どうぞ。
Yuuri would apparently take her bath during the daytime in consideration for Natsuhiko.
それじゃちょっと失礼するよ。
With that, Natsuhiko headed to the bathroom. After a simple shower, brushed his teeth and went back to the living room. And Yuuri was there reading a book, waiting for him.
おかえり、ヒコリン。
ただいま。
ヒコリン、もう寝る？少しおしゃべりしない？
いいね。それじゃあホットミルクでも入れようか。
飲む飲む。
了解。
Natsuhiko answered affirmatively and headed to the kitchen. Both Natsuhiko and Yuuri loved hot milk. Natsuhiko warmed up hot milk for two and returned to the living room.
はい、どうぞ。
ありがとう。
Natsuhiko and Yuuri sat on the sofa surrounding the table.
ユーリ、今日はどういう風に過ごしたんだい？
少し編み物をしたよ。
Now that you mentioned it, Natsuhiko remembered that Yuuri had started knitting this summer. Make presents for Natsuhiko and Mashiro, apparently.
ああ、進みはどうだい？
どうかな。冬までにできればいいけど。
それじゃ楽しみにしておこうかな。
期待に添えるように頑張るよ。
Yuuri smiled upon hearing Natsuhiko's reply. Natsuhiko enjoyed spending time having a quiet conversation with Yuuri after Mashiro went home.
それとね、今日は2冊本を読んで、さっき3冊目に突入したところだよ。
え？
へえ、どんな本
1冊目はね、南米の作家さんの本で、ある一族の流星から滅亡までを描いた幻想的な物語。
Oh?
2冊目はね、夢をテーマにした連作だよ。例えば、死んでしまった女の人を100年間ずっと待ち続ける男の人の話とか。
Anthology focused on the theme of dreams. That sounds neat.
なるほどね。どっちも夢とか幻想ってのがキーワードか。
それと、孤独と約束かな。
Yuuri was quite the bookworm. She wasn't picky about genres either. Made sure to read at least one book a day, regardless of genre. At the end of the day, she'd give Natsuhiko her impressions.
ちなみにこんな素敵なセリフがあったよ。天から落ちた星のかけらを私のお墓に置いてくれますか。そうして100年お墓のそばで待っててくれますか。
むちゃくちゃ言うな。
でもそういった女性にね、男の人は待っていると即答するの。そして本当にたった一人で100年間待っちゃうの。
That's an alright setting for us.
そりゃすごいな。二人は恋人同士だったのか？
違うんだよ。ただ約束をしたってだけの相手。なのに女の人もちゃんと約束を守って男の人に会いに来るの。100年前と同じ星が瞬く夜、花に姿を変えてね。
へえ、綺麗な話だな。
でしょ？ロマンチックでしょ？ね、ヒコリンならどう？100年間も一つの約束を守り続けることができる？
さすがに待っているって即答するのは難しいだろうけど、それでも約束したのならきっと守ると思うよ。
だよね。ヒコリン、約束破らないもんね。
You'd better not, Hikorin.
それだけが取り柄だからさ。
Then suddenly Yuuri flashes yandere eyes at us. Natsuhiko and Yuuri smile at each other. You'd better not break your promises, Hikorin. To read books and do some knitting, such was Yuri's daily life. She didn't go to school, nor work, nor even a step outside the house. It was Natsuhiko's responsibility to protect that daily life. There were circumstances behind why Yuuri had never left the house. It all revolved around a certain incident that occurred 9 years ago. Back in those days, Yuuri was still a laid-back girl, but she was far more active. Natsuhiko would take Yuuri and Mashiro along on exploration adventures to various places. One day, as a result of his own actions, Natsuhiko exposed Yuuri to a life-or-death situation. Oh fuck. Burned into Natsuhiko's memory was a fire. Sounding alarm and a flickering red light. What? Natsuhiko and Yuuri trapped. This looks suspicious. Yuri's crying voice, just remembering, gave him the chills. That looked suspiciously like Labo. Natsuhiko constantly regretted his actions for those past 9 years. So never do that again. That would explain why he changed so much with regards to being more cautious. Natsuhiko was still emotionally scarred, but Yuri's scars were probably far deeper than his. Fortunately, her parents passed away in a traffic accident, leaving her without a single relative. Natsuhiko's mother took custody of Yuuri out of compassion, but at that time the repeated tragedies had already taken their toll on the young girl's heart. Ever since that day, Yuuri was extremely afraid of going outside and shut herself up in the house. Nobody could convince her to go outside, not even by force. Ah.
なあ、ユーリ、外に出てみない？
3 days after she began to live at the Tenkawa residence, Natsuhiko steeled himself and tried to talk her out of concern that she'd never leave the house.
いやって、そういうわけにもいかないだろう。
やなの。怖いの。
このまま学校にも行かないで、ここでずっと暮らすのか？ほら、僕が一緒に行ってあげるから。
But Natsuhiko tried to pull her by the hand. Yuuri burst into tears. Yuuri cowered in fear as she cried.
Yuuri.
Yuuri twitched when Natsuhiko tried to lend her a helping hand. Froze still as a rock. Then all he heard from her was heavy breathing. Natsuhiko could do nothing but stand there at a loss for what to do. Day after day, nothing changed. She would cry, she would suffer migraines, she'd have difficulty breathing. Her fear of the outside was so strong that it resulted in physiological issues. A year later, Natsuhiko gave up trying to make Yuuri go outside entirely. She was afraid he'd break Yuri's heart. Without Yuuri ever going outside again. 8 more years passed. PTSD, huh? Post-traumatic stress disorder, a psychological condition stemming from extreme situations like life-or-death experiences. Yuuri still suffered from PTSD today. Symptoms included flashbacks or nightmares about her past experience. She tended to avoid the things that served as the sources of her trauma. Panic disorder also accompanied these symptoms and was classic PTSD. I changed her. Yuuri merely lived a quiet life within these walls without ever leaving the house. It hurt Natsuhiko's heart to think about her situation. Yuuri was keenly aware that it distressed him, so she would always look at him with a compassionate look on her face.
どうしたのヒコリン急に黙って
It would certainly explain her aversion to AD if she was actually trapped in Labo once before.
また昔のことを考えてるのヒコリンは何も気にしなくてもいいんだよこの家に住まわせてもらってるしヒコリンにもすごくよくしてもらってるしねヒコリンがいてマシロンがいて今は毎日楽しいからだから本当に気にしないで
Yuuri spoke with a gentle smile. A very clear and somehow ephemeral smile. Indeed. Despite her fragile heart, she was perfectly willing to let Natsuhiko stay by her side. So in turn, Natsuhiko vowed to always live up to that smile. It's my duty to stay by her side and watch over her. His bond with Yuuri made his friendships with his classmates seem almost inconsequential in comparison. Adding Mashiro into the mix meant he was more than content with the interpersonal relationships he already had. With that in mind, Natsuhiko returned Yuri's smile.
ありがとう、ユーリ。こんなこと言ったら怒られるかもしれないけど、僕もユーリといられて嬉しいと思っているよ。
Yuuri looked a bit lonely when Natsuhiko said this.
でもね、一つだけ気になることがあるの。
何？
ヒコリンとマシロンの仲がちっとも進展しないことだよ。
Well, I think we got it. She's like the big sister of this family. Despite being the same age as me, and you're the little sister despite being 2 years older. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. That fact perplexed me, but kind of makes sense now. Oh yeah, I wanted to swap these. Just for lulz.
私、邪魔してないかな。
なんでそこでマシロが出てくるんだよ。
だってマシロンあんなに素敵な女の子でお料理も上手だしヒコリンに優しいのに。
確かにな。あいつ学校でも結構モテるみたいだしな。
やっぱり？
ああ、結構あちこちの男から告白とかされてるみたいだよ。
告白？それで
それがマシロのやつ全部断ってるらしい。 なんでって聞くと、今は男子とか恋とか興味ないよ、そういうのは漫画とアニメで十分だってさ。
でもヒコリンとは仲良しじゃない。
真白曰く、夏彦は付き合い長すぎて異性として見れない、恋愛対象外とのことだよ。
Oof.
ま、僕も同感だ。
Yeah, that's fair. He's just a really good friend. Not even Natsuhiko could deny that Mashiro was a charming girl. Since they'd been friends for so long, they were almost family. It was difficult to exchange that bond for romantic feelings.
というわけで、僕らはそういう関係にはなり得ないって。
本当に？
ほんと。本当だってば。
怪しいな。
信じてくれないのか？
Natsuhiko, you're acting kind of sus. Yuuri was quite unsubtly using the power of suggestion, but...
なんてね。
Okay,
冗談。
she eventually said with a smile.
悪い冗談だぞ、ユーリ。
素敵な恋の話を読んだから、たまにはこんな話もいいかと思ってね。しどろもどろになるヒコリンが面白くて、ちょっと意地悪しちゃった。
Oh.
叶わないな。
Natsuhiko and Yuuri exchanged smiles. And thus they leisurely spent their time in peace. The room was filled with not love, not friendship, but absolute peace of mind transcending either. After a little bit, they talked about Yuri's third book of the day. Before they knew it, it was already late at night.
もうこんな時間か。
Poor Natsuhiko realized it. Yuri's sleepy eyes were drooping too.
そろそろ寝ようか、ユーリ。
そうだね。
Yuri said as she stood up.
今日はいろいろなことがあったね。
ああ、明日は何事もない一日であればいいな。
Natsuhiko mused as he carried the cup to the kitchen and dumped Yuri's milk into the sink.
それじゃあおやすみ、ユーリ。
Good night. That exchange of words, Natsuhiko went to turn off the lights in the living room. Suddenly, he heard a soft voice from behind him.
ねえ、ヒコリン。
Uh-oh.
ヒコリンは怖いと思ってるよね。
Eh? Natsuhiko jumped back and looked at Yuuri.
怖いって何が？
今の穏やかな生活を失うこと。繰り返しの日々が繰り返しじゃなくなることだよ。
Yuri's silhouette rose out of the darkness.
穏やかに暮らしているのは何か行動することで予想もしないことが起きるのが怖いんでしょう。自分だけなら大丈夫でも他人を巻き込むのが怖くて。
Yuri's tone of voice was different from usual. What's going on? Good question. Yuri's panic disorder had been triggered many times in the past before. It had always been limited to when someone had tried to take her outside. But this is different? He wasn't trying to take her outside. She didn't seem to be having a panic attack. Yuri continued in spite of Natsuhiko's confusion.
でもヒコリンはもうあの頃のような子供じゃないんだよ。悲しみを乗り越えられる強さを手に入れてるのかもしれないの。
ユーリ、何を言ってるんだ？
Yuri was lit by the moonlight shining through the window. The light was indistinct, leaving her expression ambiguous.
これからヒコリンの身にはいろんな出来事が起こると思う。楽しいことも辛いことも勇気なくしては乗り越えられないことも。だけどきっとそのどれもが 避けちゃいけないことなんだよ。
Yuri's prediction became gradually more ominous, which disturbed Natsuhiko.
ユーリ、もしかしてもう半分寝てるのか？寝ぼけてるんだろ？
そんな当たり前の答えだと思う。
だっていつもならもう寝てる時間。
何時？
To answer her question, Natsuhiko took one look at his watch. And it's broken again, and his eyes popped. His watch had broken before he had realized it. Hands were frozen the same way they were this morning.
そんな。どうして？
Okay, Yuuri has fucking time magic or something. Natsuhiko stared through the darkness at the dial in disbelief, and this is her breaking through her past self to speak directly to the player. Directly to Natsuhiko. Watch dial read 9:16, 6:19. Austin 6:19 says early morning 6 days from today. I'm gonna kick your ass! Oh god!
光、聞こえる？光？
Natsuhiko opened his eyes upon hearing Yuri's voice.
よかった。無事だったんだね。
ああ。
Natsuhiko strained his consciousness together as he stood up. He seemed to have had a dream in the short time he was unconscious. The smoke and the smog, he rushed over to Mashiro.
夏彦、爆発音がしたけど大丈夫？
いや、ここは。
今がいつでどういう状況かわかる？
いつって。
Lifted his watch on reflex, but it had been broken. But when he saw it, he remembered. The day was September 16. That's right, trying to find a way out of this facility. Along the way, he encountered Yuuri, despite her never leaving the house. Immediately afterwards, they got caught in an explosion. All around him were wisps of flame flickering in the air, perhaps due to the explosion.
Yuuri, 逃げよう。
Mashiro and the other girl stared in confusion at Natsuhiko's exclamation.
ユーリがどうしたの？
いや、僕も驚いたんだけど、ユーリがこの施設の中にいたんだ。
Mashiro and the other girl looked around in shock. Yuuri was standing in the smoke.
どうしてユーリが？家から出られないはずでしょ。
まさか僕らが心配でついてきて。
The moment those words left his lips, an announcement rang out over the intercom.
緊急放送です。ただいま施設内で多数の爆発が起きています。
Hello,
爆
Akita.
発は主に各非常階段付近で発生。今のところ第2エリア以降の非常階段は一部無事ですが、それらも随時崩壊している模様です。危険です。職員の皆様は早急に地上に避難してください。
Natsuhiko gasped as he heard the desperate voice screaming. Said the situation was critical. He didn't understand why Yuuri had come here, but there was no time to ask her.
こうなったらユーリも連れて4人で脱出しよう。サリュー、第1エリアのエレベーターは使えそうだったか？
The girl beside Mashiro answered.
残念ながら止まっていた。どうやらエレベーターは普通の模様。
地上に出るには無事な非常階段を探すしかないよ。
じゃあ行こう。第2エリアはこの先だ。
Everyone nodded to Natsuhiko in consent, and they all started to run. As he ran, Natsuhiko muttered
あの日の
listlessly.
夢を見てたんだ。6日前、9月10日の夢。
9月10日。
考えてみれば、あの日から日常が変わり始めていた気がする。
It It was faint, but it was probably the harbinger of times to come.
初めてテレパシーを使ったのもユーリが予言めいたことを言ったのも全部あの日だ。
ユーリが予言それってどうなん？
これから僕の身にはいろんなことが起きると思うってさ。
To be fair, Ukita said the same thing first.
なあユーリ、なんであんなこと言ったんだ？
She's not telling. Yuuri did not reply. At the moment they came across a closed gate at the end of the hallway.
行き止まりだ。
今は全てのゲートが開放されてるって言っていたのに。
Apparently the gate had warped slightly due to either the explosions or the fires and was stuck shut.
夏彦、引き返す。
いや。
Path back was blocked by flames. It was too late to turn back now.
仕方ない。手動でこじ開けよう。みんな手伝ってくれ。
They jumped to the gate and strained themselves hard. Gate creaked and started to open little by little. However,
どうしたマシロ？
hot? Fire?
爪が。
Oh no. Oh no. On closer inspection, part of her nail had torn off and blood was oozing from her finger. Oh dear.
大丈夫か？僕らだけでも十分だから、ユーリと一緒に待ってろ。
Mashiro stepped back as the others returned to prying open the gate. The fire raged closer from behind. If they didn't act quick, they would burn to death. Nevertheless, a certain feeling rose up in Natsuhiko's chest. Reminds me, something similar happened just the other day. What day was that? That's right, it was the morning after Yuuri had made that bizarre prediction. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind,
予言したのはそれだけじゃないはずだよ。
BC? Yuuri whispered right beside him. Nope, just whisper.
え？
Noise faded away into the distance so that all he could hear was Yuri's voice.
楽しいことも辛いことも勇気なくしては乗り越えられないこともだけどきっとそのどれもが避けちゃいけないことなんだよ。
ユーリ。
Why is she saying that sort of thing now? No, how could she even tell what I'm thinking? Those two questions came up into his head, but he formed neither of them into words. Yuuri alone continued to speak.
あれからいろんな問いをかけたよね。ヒコリンはその問いに答えられる。
Each word Yuuri spoke sent shudders into Natsuhiko's mind.
耐えられるはずなんだよ。だから思い出して。ヒコリンはその強さを手に入れたこと。どんな問いをかけられても、ヒコリンは正しい答えを出せるってこと。
Then Yuuri fell silent. Silence filled the area. Not a sound could be heard. No, one sound could be heard. The ticking of a watch. Natsuhiko's eyes snapped to his watch. Before he had realized it, the watch that should have been broken began to mark the passage of time once again. How? Date and time displayed. 9/11. 6:29. Early morning, 5 days ago. Okay, this video is not even playing in the game itself, so... It's not even like the after route where it played in the game. I could see it in the game, but not in OBS. This time it's just not playing, period. I'm sure it's a very lovely opening credit sequence, but okay, going back. Okay, there we go.
はい。
And someone called out to him. Natsuhiko suddenly snapped out of his daze. Mashiro was there before his eyes. Huh? I'm at home? I had the feeling he was somewhere completely different just a moment ago. There's no way he could have gone out this early in the morning. It was probably just his imagination. I still half asleep.
なんだっけ。
なんだっけって。手見せてみろって言ったの夏彦でしょ。
僕が？
そうだよ。開かない瓶を無理して開けようとしたら指怪我しちゃったんだよ。
Okay. I'm gonna leave that here. Yuuri knows more than she's letting on. We've also got an interesting frame story going on, starting on the 16th, before the lockdown. For now, got a whole other collection of tips. Let's go in order. ADS. In 2020, Rokume City was the first in the nation to experiment with making all of its vehicles electronic and equipping them with automated driving systems, ADS. Today, one can input a destination into a car's navigation system and safely ride all the way without ever touching the steering wheel. In case of emergencies, the cars can still be switched to manual mode. Even if manual mode, if one forgets to brake, the car can still detect that error and decelerate automatically. Thus, traffic accidents have become extremely rare in Rokume City. Automatic driving has brought down the rate of accidents to just 4%, what they were when manual driving was the norm. All vehicles traveling within the city are subject to computer control by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism's Land Transportation Branch, and the Rokume Automobile Control Office. RACO. Computer control also allows the officers to know where each vehicle is at all times. The result, the number of vehicle-related crimes, traffic jams, and traffic accidents have all decreased. However, some have raised concerns that the Rokume City government has unilateral control over all vehicles. That is something that can be abused, but it's also helpful. Gasoline is so volatile that in Japanese it is sometimes called kihatsuyu, or volatile oil. Pain juice. As long as there's a fire source, vapors of the petroleum product can ignite at temperatures as low as -40 degrees Celsius. Therefore, in vehicular accidents requiring rescue squad assistance, vehicle must be hosed down to prevent ignition due to static discharge or other causes, even in the absence of fire. Furthermore, in this situation, hosing doesn't simply mean to spray water on the vehicle. Careless hosing can generate static electricity when the water lands, causing a fire instead of preventing one. More spread technique instead of bombarding it with a focused stream of water, I suppose? BC misuse prohibition. Okay, not that long. The percentage of communicators in Rokume City's population is overwhelmingly higher than it is in other cities, and thus a city ordinance prohibits untargeted telepathy in most situations. The only place not covered by the ordinance is Rokume Academy campus. Repeat offenders of the ordinance can very well be detained. Some seek a prohibition on the use of empathy as well, but for various reasons including the scarcity of people who can actually use empathy, and the imperceptibility of empathy usage by third parties, no precise regulation is in place, and it is left up to an honor system for empathy users. That said, the vast majority of non-Esper residents in Rokume City choose to live there with full knowledge of what kind of city it is, so nearly nobody has actually been detained as a result of this ordinance. That's fair. It seems like a difficult thing to prove in a court of law outside of witness testimony. Get a bunch of people gathered up and said, yeah, they're fucking... Imagine it's all... Can't really be a reliable way to prove that. You have to prove there was an effect and prove there was a source nearby. So you're almost going off of a prevalence of witness testimonies witnessing the same thing being broadcast. Which, really, if that's what you're going for, then that's actually probably enough. PTSD. Birth, a condition of stress disorders caused by the shock of a traumatic event, often occurs when experiences of war, disaster, accidents, or abuse. Good of them to include that. Overwhelm an individual's ability to cope. Symptoms include flashbacks to the traumatic experience, recurring nightmares, emotional paralysis, insomnia, or other varying signs of emotional distress. Symptoms vary from individual to individual. There is no set treatment. Sufferers of PTSD need to be placed in an environment where they can rest, eat, and sleep well, and have a doctor thoroughly evaluate their personal history to formulate a personalized plan. PTSD may also occur in individuals who have not directly experienced a disaster or an accident, but instead have simply witnessed such a calamity and feel an extreme sense of helplessness because of it. Also good to include. The thought of live and let die may seem cold at times. However, it may also help people realize that there are some things only they can do. Some things even they can do. Some things that they can do nothing about. Only they can do. Even they can do nothing about. Yeah. Can't really put it any better than that. Esper Suit Beyonder. An original animated TV series broadcast on NDK from July to September 2019. 13 episodes. The series depicts a... Man, we missed out on this last year. The series depicts a boy gifted with the rare ability of ESP who becomes the Beyonder, pilot of a robot driven by human thought. Follows his coming-of-age journey as he meets and battles many rivals with abilities similar to his own. For some reason, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, MEXT, listed as part of the production committee in the credits. The multimedia marketing effort was successful with its collectible card-reading arcade game. Figure sets and comic versions released alongside the show's airing, creating a big sensation. Oops. Centered on the male elementary school demographic. Also have noticed that the scenario writer for the series had only written 2 series in total before disappearing from the anime industry, perhaps out of a fully fulfilled creative urge, or perhaps for fulfilling his government-mandated BC normalization regime. Okay, that sounded rough. Or government-mandated presentation of BC in a way that kids could understand. That's better. Rokume Science City. One of the cities chosen as government-designated top-secret cities within the 2016 BC law. Under the pretext of protecting the secrecy of BC research, a now national affair, several restrictions are put into place. A tall fence was erected around the city's perimeter, with city gates and inspection stations. Moving inside or outside the city would now require permission from the government. Surveillance cameras were installed throughout the town, and all phone calls, correspondence, and mail would be strictly filtered. In return, utilities and medical facilities were enriched. Certain tax exemptions were made. Public order became extremely favorable, both individuals and enterprises. It was as if the city had become a cradle for its citizens as long as they consented to the rules. So Total population is roughly 180,000, roughly 0.2% or 360 of them being communicators, demonstrating ability level 1 or higher. Back and right mouse button. Oh shit. Ahem. And 0.5% or 900 of them having rank E aptitude or higher. In 2030, the world population is at 8.3 billion, with an official estimate of 0.0002%, or 166,000 of them being communicators. Thus, Rokame City's communicator percentage is 100 times that of the world. Japan had a whole percentage of twice that of the world. 2,800 ability level 1. Japanese residents out of the population of 120 million. It's still unclear why so many communicators are born in Japan. It's just that kind of place. Okay. On that note, we finished day 1. Yeah, we're in chapter 2. Didn't even show a chapter title card. Which is odd. But, fair. Yeah, no matter what I do, I can't get that video to play. So I'll splice it in after the fact. So you'll get to see it, even though I didn't. But fair. That's gonna be it for part 2 of Before. We finished day 1. We've seen some teases of Discord to go. We have that frame story going. We've seen pretty much everyone. Pretty much all of our 9 characters. Interacted with Enna at school. Seen Kazumi and Jun rescuing Ukita. Which is interesting that I'd have to replay their first meeting with Ukita to see if they actually recognize him. It might have been brought up before. I don't remember it precisely, but I feel like it could have been. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments one way or another. But interesting. Teases of things to come. Yuuri being extremely creepy, which makes me think that this is not just some intentional flashbacking frame story, it's something that Yuuri is actively in control of, I think. There's a lot of questions that's centered around Yuuri here, which I'm curious to see where that goes. That will be for next time, though. Until next time, until then, thanks for watching.